What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Batman Knightquest. But now it's time for us to get into, well, a three-part story arc where we are going to have the Joker going up against the Batman. Now remember, by this point in Batman comics, Bruce Wayne is no longer the Batman. Instead, it is actually John Paul Valley. And John Paul Valley has not had a run-in yet with the Joker up until this moment right here, where you have the Joker coming back to Gotham to hopefully take down the Batman. But the Joker has no idea just yet that the Batman that he has been fighting for so many years is no longer around. That instead is now a new Batman, and he has to learn it the hard way. Now, for the Joker, we already know that every single time this man tries to go after the Batman, he tries to go after Batman in very unique ways. And so this time, it's the Joker trying to, well, kill off the Batman, but make it a movie. You see, we see the Joker meeting up with a movie producer known as Barry Zedmore. And you do have the Joker show him a test reel of his new production, a new movie called The Death of Batman. Now, once you have Barry actually watch the film, the test run, you have Barry be very excited in what he was seeing. And so he agrees to give Joker the money he needs to make this movie, not realizing that the Joker is really trying to make a movie about the death of the Batman, where the actual death scene will actually be real. Either way, once you have Barry agree with Joker to kind of give some money to get this movie started, you then have the Joker leave to go find his lead actor. And we already know that would be John Paul Valley Batman. Now, as we jump over to John Paul Valley being Batman, we do get reminded that after you had John Paul become Batman, we did see him become a more aggressive Batman than Bruce Wayne. Now, with that aggressiveness, he was able to make Gotham a safer place for the innocent people of Gotham. And so you are now technically able to go out and worry a tad bit less about being robbed or possibly murdered, because most of the criminals are kind of scared to come out because what Batman did to Bane, but other criminals after Bane who tried to make their moves. Now, with all that information, we do see Batman just hanging around the city, but then he hears a young woman scream for help. Now, when he goes to help her, he realizes that she's being attacked by men who are criminals, but they're dressed like different creatures of the night. So, for example, you have one of the creatures dressed like Frankenstein, or the werewolf, or for example, Dracula. Now, you do have Batman being able to take these three guys down very easily, and they do run away. Now, when he goes to check up on the woman, she's very happy to see him, but then she passes out. Now, she's going to be very important because this is the Joker trying to use her as a way to get to Batman, because every hero has that woman that he easily falls in love with, that he tries to get close to. And so for the Joker, this whole idea of the death of Batman may be a movie, but also be a real thing. But he wants to make sure all the different parts of his movie actually happens. So Batman, the main person in the movie, must have a love interest. Now, Batman was able to figure out where the young woman stays at, and apparently at a university. Her name is Cindy Brooks. Now, Cindy Brooks is only going to be really important for this story arc alone when it comes to Knightquest. But after he was able to figure out where she lived, he took her back home. And once she does confirm that she is okay, he is out of there in a hurry. But when he was in her room, it kind of reminded him when he was young, back in college, having a dorm room, being able to live free and wild without any kind of serious things to worry about. And so it kind of begins the process of John Paul slowly begin to think more about her and possibly trying to get with her. But shifting our focus back over to the Joker, you have the Joker head back over to the studio that had approved to produce his movie, The Death of the Batman. Now, we do learn that the Joker staff is really more just different people that he hired to be his henchmen to kind of help out with the movie, but also the big plan to kill off Batman. Now, two of the guys, they were kind of hired to help the Joker go over different opinions about his movie. Like, for example, the Batman being different. You see, the Joker was able to realize that Batman is no longer wearing his classic outfit, that now he has his new armor suit on. Now, for the Joker, it does not ring any bells that there could be a possibility of someone else being in the bat suit. It still could be the one he fought for many years. It's that now he had changed his outfit. We see the two guys kind of argue about what they think about the outfit. And for me personally, it's kind of like these two guys being used to represent how the fans felt back in the 1990s when it came to Bruce Wayne no longer being Batman and John Paul being Batman, and John Paul wearing the new Batman suit. Either way, we also learned that the Joker had locked up the producer of the movie and his entire staff in cells underneath the studio. Now, the main producer of the movie, he still believes that the Joker is really going to help out his company with this movie, and also the Joker is going to bring a blockbuster movie. Now, his assistant is trying to tell him like, no, the Joker is using you and your money, and also he's really going to kill off the Batman. Like, we should be very worried here. Now, I want to jump back over to John Paul, and this is where we're going to have a quick chat about the system that was installed in the mind of John Paul Valley. And I know, like every single video we do for Knightquest, I have this conversation, but it's really important for the character of John Paul. Now, we had learned a while back that John Paul Valley belongs to a group called the Order of St. Dumas. Now, the Order of St. Dumas had followed a saint better known as St. Dumas all the way back in the 14th, 15th century. Now, over the years, the order was able to stay around, but anytime somebody would try to cross the order in a negative way, they would send someone out to kill you, their avenging angel, better known as Azrael. Now, when it came to John Paul Valley, he had no idea that he was technically part of the Order of St. Dumas. But his father, the previous Azrael, was the one going around that time being the avenging angel. But the problem was his father wanted to make sure that his son would be ready to take up the mantle just in case anything happened. And that was called the system. The system was installed in the mind of John Paul so that when the time comes and it has to be activated, John Paul would know everything about the order, but also be a very well-trained fighter. And so when John Paul's father had died, it was time for John Paul to become Azrael. But around that time, John Paul met Bruce Wayne, and Bruce said, hey, why don't you just, come over to our side, the Bat family, and be a better person, not an actual killer for the Order of St. Dumas. And the reason why I'm bringing that up, because for John Paul, the last few videos, every once in a while, he is confronted by the Pantheon St. Dumas in some kind of vision, where you have St. Dumas trying to tell him that his main goal currently is to save the Dark City, to make the Dark City a better place. And he's talking about Gotham City. Now, the problem is for this story arc is that John Paul kind of feels like it's a never-ending crusade. Like he'll never be able to actually save Gotham because how corrupt Gotham truly is. And also, it's John Paul kind of thinking about that young girl, but also the life he had before he became Azrael, before becoming Batman, or even joining the Order of St. Dumas, when his life was very peaceful and quiet. And so it's kind of like John Paul trying to move away from the life of being part of the Order of St. Dumas, but also this crusade to save the Dark City. Now, for the Joker, because he's all in this whole idea that he's trying to make a movie, that he believes that the Batman needs some motivation. And so, for the Joker, we see him tell his camera crew that they're going to head over to the university that Cindy stays at because, hey, we have an idea that could possibly motivate the Batman to kind of work through the Joker's movie a tad bit better. Now, getting back over to John Paul, you have John Paul going out at night to figure out what was going on with those three guys dressed as movie characters. He's trying to figure out if possibly there's a new game trying to come in and do some new kind of game work in Gotham City, but dressed as movie characters. Now, he's at the university that Cindy stays at. And so while being there, he sees a small explosion. He goes over there and he's then confronted by even more movie characters. Now, for Batman, he has to take them down. But while doing that, he realized that two of them are trying to get away through a different exit, and he follows. But then he learns that this was actually a setup because it's the Joker kind of leaving clues behind to tell him that one, it's the Joker, but two, this is some kind of sick joke to say that Batman might be in a movie. But he also realized that Cindy was a pawn being used as a way to lure Batman into this trap or into a future trap down the road. Now, for John Paul, he begins to get very worried for Cindy because he's at the university while all of this is happening at the moment. And so he runs over to her dorm room, except when he does, he sees somebody being thrown out the window. And it seems to be Robin. Tim Drake Robin. And so now we have to jump into Detective Comics issue number 672, the next chapter of this whole event. Now, with that being said, we do see Batman being able to save Robin. Now, we should have known that this would not be Robin. Here's the reason why. Because around this time in DC Comics, DC had launched the Robin solo series. Tim Drake was by himself because with Bruce Wayne being gone, and for John Paul, he felt like he did not needed a Robin at all. You had Tim Drake go solo into protecting Gotham and going on his own adventures. And so getting back over to John Paul, once he was able to actually save the Robin, we kind of find out it is actually Cindy. And really, for the Joker, Batman was not supposed to save her at all because he was trying to motivate him. With the death of Cindy, it would motivate Batman even more for Joker's movie. But the problem is now Batman has saved Cindy. And so it kind of ruined the whole Joker's big plan there. Now, for the Joker, he's not really happy about Batman being able to save the life of Cindy, but also Batman still being the heroic person, meaning that for the Joker, his storyboard is supposed to be Batman dying. The movie is called The Death of Batman. You can't have the death of Batman if Batman keeps surviving at the end of all your storyboard. And so you have the Joker asking the producer Barry for more money. Now, at first, Barry says no. Like, hey, first off, you have me locked up in a cell. Number two, you already got a lot of money from me. I'm not giving you even more money for this movie of yours. But you didn't have the Joker pull out a gun and say, hey, buddy, listen, you sure about that? Like, go ahead and give me the money or I'm going to shoot you. And you have the producer give the Joker more money for this movie that he's trying to pull off. Now, you do have John Paul go back to the Batcave. When he does, he kind of wonders, why hadn't Bruce Wayne dealt with the Joker before? Because it's an endless cycle. You stop the Joker, you give him over to Arkham, he breaks out, he kills people, and the cycle continues over and over again. And so for John Paul, he's kind of wondering, why hadn't Bruce Wayne just stopped the Joker for good? Now, you also have John Paul realize that, well, Tim Drake has been using the Bat computer in secret. And let's not forget, John Paul told Tim, you are no longer allowed in the Bat cave, because to him, he felt like Tim Drake being a Robin for him is not needed. That Tim Drake would always just get in the way with him being Batman. And so he said, you're no longer allowed in the Bat cave, but he finds out that Tim has been Well, using the Batcomputer when John Paul is not around. Now, for the Joker, he wants Gotham to know that he is making a big movie, The Death of Batman. And so you have the GCPD get a package, and the package is a brand new movie poster that was actually created by the Joker to tell them and other people in Gotham that, hey, here comes the Joker in his brand new movie, The Death of Batman. And for Jim Gordon, he's kind of freaking out wondering, what is the Joker actually up to? Like, yes, he knows that the Joker wants to kill Batman, but like a movie though? Now, we do see Jim Gordon go over to the bat signal to call up Batman and kind of get a better idea about what in the world is going on with the Joker sending out movie posters about a movie called The Death of Batman. But the problem is, John Paul does not show up when Jim Gordon lights up the bat signal. Now, this is also Jim Gordon kind of realizing slowly here that maybe it's not the same Batman that he has always worked with over the years. And really, you have more and more police officers kind of realize that when it came to the battle between Batman and Bane, John Paul and Bane, they realized that Batman was completely different in that battle. He was more aggressive than he ever was in the past. But for Jim, he's kind of like, no, it has to be the same man I always worked with over the years. But it's him slowly learning that's not technically true. Now, we also see John Paul go over to the hospital to check up on Cindy after her incident at the university where she was dressed up as Robin. But then they realize that, well, somebody has signed her out. And for John Paul, he knows it was the Joker. It's the Joker once again coming at Batman. Now, for the Joker, he told everyone, like, hey, listen, the movie poster is going to tell you where the movie is going to take place at the Majestic Theater. Except for Batman, John Paul, he realized that it had to be a trap if he goes there. So he does some good detective work and realize that the Joker's real lair should be at some movie warehouse. So you have Batman go over to that warehouse while you have the GCPD go to investigate the Majestic Theater. Now, when the GCPD arrived, yeah, it was a trap. They get fired upon by a bunch of bullets. But either way, you have Batman, John Paul, being able to go deeper into the movie studio. Now, the Joker knew that Batman would sooner or later figure out that the Majestic Theater is not the actual location, that the Batman would find out where his actual base is at. And so while you have Batman going through the warehouse, you have John Paul going through different scenarios of different kinds of movies that somebody would be in if they were an actor. But by the end of all these different scenarios, you didn't have a bunch of guys beginning to throw pies at Batman. Now you're kind of like, okay, it's pies, so what? But apparently the pies were drugged. And so after a few pies had hit Batman over and over and over again, he was completely knocked out thanks to the pies being drugged. Now, real quick, I want to tell you guys that the police officers at the theater are actually okay. And the reason why, because they find out that it was a turret gun that was set to go off if anybody actually entered the actual building. But the gun ran out of bullets. And so the GCPD are able to kind of realize that this was a fake place to come to. It was a trap. But shifting our focus back over to Batman, we now enter the final scene of the Joker's movie because you didn't have John Paul wake up, but now he's been chained down and unable to actually move. But then he realized that Cindy is being hung upside down and slowly descending into a tank full of water where, well, she'll drown. And so this is the Joker kind of like, hey, listen, you have now entered the final scene of my movie. And this leads us into the final chapter of the story arc. And so this leads us into the final chapter of the book. But also, this is the moment where you have the Joker realize this is not his Batman. Like, this is a new Batman. Because once you have John Paul being able to break free from the chain that was bounding him down to the ground, he's able to fight against all the henchmen that the Joker had hired. But in the middle of that battle, Well, he started watching Batman and he realized, way Batman moves is completely different. It's not so smooth, it's more aggressive, more beast like. And so you have Joker realize, oh, wait, new suit, more aggressive, not really down with the idea of all my different jokes. Like, this is not my Batman. It's not him. It is a different person. Either way, you have John Paul being able to take down all the henchmen that the Joker had and also save Cindy. Now, after that moment, you didn't have Cindy tell the Batman that she is done. Now, for Batman, he's kind of wondering, what are you talking about? Like, you mean you're done? Like, what is that about? And we learned that she was actually working for the Joker. The Joker hired her to be that damsel in distress as a way to get to Batman, to have someone for him to fall in love with when it comes to his movie. She was not just a random person that he had picked. Like in reality, no, he picked her, but not by random. He used her for that actual part of his plan. And so for John Paul, he realized that all that time he was worried about her, it kind of moved him away from continuing his crusade to save the Dark City. But now he has to shift his focus back onto the Joker. Now, I want to jump over to Jim Gordon. Here's the reason why. So, you had Jim technically at the police station, and he's with his wife, Sarah, who's also a police officer. Now, for Sarah, she never liked the Batman. She hated what he standed for. To her, the whole idea of the Batman is saying the police in Gotham are unable to actually protect the city, which honestly is completely true. But either way, you have her always hating on Batman. Now, for Jim, he never truly did hate the Batman. He's kind of like, listen, at first it was bad blood, but we worked things through, and now we're partners. But she says, hey, haven't you realized that he's changed? He's more aggressive. He's completely different. He's more a silent partner now. He's not really trying to work with you. Like, she goes on and on. And it's her kind of pushing Jim in the right direction to say, hey, man, that is not the same Batman that you had always worked with over the years. That is somebody else. Now, I want to jump back over to John Paul and also the Joker because it's time for these two characters to actually battle. Now, when these two characters go up against one another, you actually have John Paul being that aggressive person he is. Now, for Joker, even though he realized that this is not the same Batman that he had fought against over the years, he still believes that John Paul is just as what he thinks soft as Bruce Wayne, meaning that John Paul will beat down the Joker, but then hand the Joker over to Arkham, and then the cycle continues all over again. But for John Paul, he's tired of the cycle. He says, no, I'm going to break the cycle. And so you have John Paul really going at it on the Joker. Like, he plans to kill the Joker. But what does save the Joker's life is that the GCPD do arrive just in time to stop him. Like, hey, you are not going to kill that man at all. Now, for me personally, that's a dumb move because this is the Joker. Like, go ahead, kill him off. Gotham will be a better place without the Joker. But because the GCPD has a code to follow, they say, hey, Batman, you are not going to kill him. And for the Joker, he got very lucky because if the GCPD had arrived just maybe 10 seconds later, the Joker would have been dead. Now, different members of the GCPD are also realizing that Batman is not what he used to be. Like, he's, again, more aggressive. He's out there trying to take people down for good if he needs to. He's okay with crossing that line. And so you have the GCPD wondering what to do with Batman. But the ending of the book is really more the book showing us that the Joker is okay after being beat down by Batman, but while riding over to the hospital in the ambulance, you have the Joker being able to wake up, and I guess his arm is okay, but also break free, and now he's out there again in Gotham and waiting for the right time to bring more chaos into the city. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.